Hi, it's Pluto's ancestor from the 1940s. I'm just covering for her today. So, I feel like we've been bombarded with Sussex news over the past few days after so long without, and I'm just like, whoa. I mean, they always do this, don't they? It's just silence until Meghan can't take the silence anymore. But rather than try to squeeze in everything into the one video and make my life a living hell and make yours a bore, I thought I would spread it out instead. So this week's gonna be a little busier on the Sussex front. As you have all probably already seen by now, Meghan and Harry have graced us yet again with another sickly sweet recorded PR stunt in which they call unsuspecting young people to congratulate them for making the digital world a better place. I mean, first off, I just want to say all of these kids, all these young people just look so hopeful, and you know, it's a clean slate. Look at me talking like I'm 50. It is a clean slate, but then you get through your 20s and it starts getting kind of muddled. But they're so young and it makes me smile to see them so happy and excited. I will say maybe they didn't know that it would be Meghan and Harry who would be calling them. You know, maybe they knew someone important would be calling them, important enough to set up a camera and, you know, a microphone and all that in their rooms or offices. But maybe it was still a genuine surprise that it was Meghan and Harry. I don't know. I just think they were all sweet kids, and I actually feel bad that they have been roped into this with Meghan and Harry because, as we all know, everything they touch turns to ashes. And I'm not saying that this fund is necessarily going to fail, but you've already got all of this negative attention now. You know, no one's really talking about what this fund is meant to be doing, which I will be only because I want to show you how ridiculous it is that Meghan and Harry are even affiliated with it. But as usual, whenever Meghan and Harry insert themselves into something and put their faces on it, all the commentary is suddenly negative. And if you're wondering why it's negative this time, well, you're about to find out. I'm looking at myself in a viewfinder and I'm just like, who are you? And a quick aside before I get into the video, did you notice how they are now suddenly just Harry and Meghan? And it wasn't just in this video, it was everywhere that they've popped up over the past few days, in magazines, on these fluff pieces that they've got their sources giving. They've suddenly gone from
Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex,
to seemingly dropping the titles, which I see as an obvious attempt to rebrand and move away from that failure, because that's exactly what Megxit was, an absolute failure. But will this rebranding attempt work? I mean, I think we already know the answer, especially after that catastrophic car chase that never was. They're hopeless. I don't think anything they do at this point will save their behinds. You know, it's been 3 years of this nonstop nonsense, and people see through them now, and they've had enough, which is why all of this commentary surrounding them is negative. They did this to themselves. So this video, they call a few kids, as you saw, who got grants and became members of the Responsible Technology Youth Power Fund cohort. And since I'd never heard of this fund before, I looked into this organization to see what they're about, and more importantly, what their connection with Meghan and Harry is, because all of this just seemed very left field. They just seemingly popped out of nowhere. According to their website, the fund is a first of its kind philanthropic initiative aimed at supporting youth and intergenerationally led organizations shaping the responsible technology movement. Now, what's the responsible technology movement, I wonder? The responsible technology movement is about building, shaping, and stewarding our tech ecosystem to safeguard human rights, leveraging technology platforms to address social, cultural, political, or environmental problems, ensuring equitable access to the benefits of technology, and mitigating the harmful impacts of technology in communities. And I'm sure you can already see that there is a glaring problem here, because everything I just read out is the antithesis of what Meghan and Harry stand for or represent, because they pretend to stand for all of this good stuff, but their actions always indicate otherwise. I mean, human rights, really? From the people who won't even talk to their own families for no reason? From the people, or from the woman specifically, who relentlessly attacks her disabled sister for saying the truth about her? For a couple who make millions out of trashing their own family, including their ailing, dying grandparents at the time, being Prince Philip and then later the Queen? And these so-called social and cultural, political, environmental problems. I mean, environmental. Private jets everywhere, sure, because that is definitely the solution that we all need to address these problems. Cultural problems, social problems. Teach your kids that it's okay to ruthlessly use and abuse and discard everyone in your life as long as you get to the top. It's okay to lie your way through life. It's okay to disparage your own family who gave you everything just to get the world on your side. Equity. From a woman who wears hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of clothing and jewelry to visit homeless shelters, to visit disadvantaged schools and children in one of the most poverty-stricken areas in the United States. That's equity for you. And last but certainly not least, mitigating the harmful impacts of technology, bullying, right? That's definitely a primary objective here.
Can we actually stop the cyberbullying at the source with the cyberbully?
Which is rich, coming from a woman who has been accused of bullying her staff to tears, to quitting, and to PTSD territory. Accusations which she never sued over, mind you. I mean, her husband all but admitted that their staff were mistreated because he said so in his book. They were slumped over on their desks crying, as if that's a normal day at the office. Didn't he even pause to think, maybe this isn't the way the workplace is supposed to function? Maybe I shouldn't put it in my book. But the fact that he put it in there just shows you how blasé he was about it. How, yeah, what of it? And let's not forget the Sussex squad. People who they are very much aware of, because Harry ended up thanking them in some charity booklet that was released because they had donated to that charity. And they absolutely know, because Samantha has said so in her lawsuit against Meghan, that she has been harassed to the ends of the earth by these people. She had to take out a restraining order against some of them or one of them. And this is a disabled woman. We're all vulnerable to stalking. I mean, I've been stalked. My partner's been stalked for the better part of a decade. It's a scary reality to live with. So I can't even imagine what it must feel like for a woman of her age and her condition to have to live with that threat looming over her head. And her sister, by her silence, is condoning it. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept. You're such an advocate against bullying, claiming to be a victim of bullying yourself, and yet you seem to be the ultimate perpetrator or enabler of such behavior, as long as you're not the target. Now, I can't really blame the fund at this point, because it turns out that Archwell is one of 13 partners that have donated funds to establish this fund to begin with. So I don't anticipate that this fund is about to bite the hand that feeds it. But I think it's already seen probably the consequences of affiliating with such people, because, as I said, the commentary has been anything but positive. Then you have that sickly sweet performance, if you can even call it that. I mean, Harry seems genuine enough, so he's either genuinely enjoying calling these kids and congratulating them, or he's a much better actor than Meghan, which is a very low threshold to meet. So I'd be inclined to believe that he is. Because if this performance is anything to go by, well, after years of acting in the role of her life as the Duchess, Meghan still can't hide the animosity and the irritation that she clearly feels when anyone other than herself is talking. Look at that jaw muscle twitch, just as it did in the engagement interview all those years ago. And that forced, tense smile. No wonder she didn't make it in Hollywood. And they have the time, supposedly, to get all dolled up in beige, because they wouldn't want to outshine the royal family from across the pond, now would they? And proceed to film this absolutely superfluous nonsense in their backyard. But Meghan doesn't have the time, or I should say the decency, to pick up the phone, as she did here. She showed us she's capable of it, and call her father on his 79th birthday only a couple of weeks ago. She doesn't have the time to let him drive up or even drive down to him and let him meet his grandchildren, whom he has never met, by the way, before his dying day. Although these are two very different circumstances, this really reminds me of Uvalde, because she had the time to hop on a private jet, take a whole crew with her, and go to Uvalde for that disgusting photo op when her father had just suffered from a highly publicized stroke at the time. It was all over the news. See, this is proof that Meghan never learns. No matter how much she is ridiculed, because everyone ridiculed her for that disgusting display, she basically used that tragic event to boost her own profile. And she let her father, who had a stroke so bad he had to relearn how to do basic things like speak, just by himself in Mexico. And now that I've opened that can of worms, along the same vein, they have the time to set all of this up, get dolled up, like I said, get all the cameras and crew and all that to call these children, but they didn't have the time to go see the Queen when she asked for them, when they were in the United Kingdom, I believe, a mere few days before her death. And mind you, unlike us, they knew she was dying of bone cancer. This is how they chose to treat her, because doing that Oprah interview while Prince Philip was on his deathbed wasn't enough. Releasing blackmail through that Cut article while the Queen was on her deathbed wasn't enough. And mind you, the Queen asked to see them after that article was released. So she must have been in a really bad way, as we all know, because she was dead a few days later. But they didn't care, because all they care about is the moolah and, of course, the clout, the adoration, the worship. Why else would they put a camera on to call these kids? Why not just call them in private? The kids would have enjoyed that just as much, but they just had to film it, didn't they? They had to put it out there to not only pretend to be humanitarians, but to use these kids, much in the same that Meghan used the Uvalde tragedy, to boost their own profile and to put up a united front to combat all these rumors about their disintegrating marriage. We all know that that's what this is all about, and they failed even to do something as basic as that, because if this video and this tension between them showed us anything, it shows us that perhaps these rumors have a little bit more credence than we've been led to believe. Before I close up this video, Meghan's birthday, her 42nd, has just passed, and it was entirely ignored by the royal family for the first time. Some people are saying it's because she's no longer a working royal. Well, as far as I'm aware, she hasn't been for the better part of almost 4 years now. And yet they wished her a happy birthday very publicly as recently as last year. So I'm not buying it. I personally don't believe that it has anything to do with the fact that they're not working royals anymore, and everything to do with the fact that they have well and truly burned every single one of their bridges. The royal family has been entirely too patient with them, and now I'm starting to think it was for the Queen's benefit, because all of that seems to have gone right down the drain as soon as King Charles ascended the throne and went through with the coronation, which is what everyone said he would do, and I am so glad that this is what's happening, because this is how you deal with these people. You give them a taste of their own medicine. You put them in their place, because otherwise they never know when to stop. But as with every year that her birthday comes around, I've noticed a flurry of protestations surrounding her age. So she just turned 42, based on the fact that she was born on the 4th of August, 1981. But for some reason, there is this rumor that has been persisting for years now that she is actually much older than she says she is and was born in 1977, making her 46. Now, I've personally always believed her date of birth to be what she says it is. And that's not just because, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, but because I recall her own family publicly saying so during an interview, I believe. I think her father may have said it. I'm not too sure, but this was years ago, and they have always confirmed that she is the age she says she is. But most recently, because I was doubting my own memory, I actually reached out to someone who has known Meghan her entire life and who would be the first to jump up and say that Meghan is lying about something if she's actually lying. And that person has confirmed to me personally that Meghan is indeed 42 this year. They even went as far as to explain to me where they think the rumor came from, which is the story where she had her first kiss at some summer camp. And I believe Meghan erroneously stated that she was 13 when she was actually younger, or maybe she got the year wrong, leading people to conclude that she was older than she says she is. But again, this person would never hesitate to correct the record. They have done so before, and Meghan is indeed 42 years old. The thing is, when it comes to these rumors, all they do is give Meghan's supporters ammunition against those of us who call out her bad behavior and her antics. Meghan gives us all enough content as it is to disprove without having to invent rumors that have been categorically denied by her own family. Some people say that she definitely looks older than 42, especially in this recent video. And I have to say that turtleneck is not doing her any favors. It does look like she has, a turkey neck. Like her skin is just all folded over, and yeah, it's just really not a good look. But poor wardrobe choices aside, I think that it's just her extreme weight loss. They say at a certain age that a woman must choose between maintaining a youthful face or a very skinny body. But I personally think that's true of us at any age, especially after you're a teenager. When you hit your 20s, I went through a very difficult period from 2019 to the middle of 2021 with Zach Stalker and just the stress and, police and restraining orders and all that. And, I feared for my life. So I lost a lot of weight because when things get rough, I don't eat. And I aged myself. I remember when I recently got healthy again, I was just like, whoa, I haven't seen this face, this Pluto, in a couple of years, and I'm young. So I think that's what it comes down to. She's just gotten really thin, and I'm not body shaming. I just, she's gotten really thin. It's a fact. And it's not doing her face any wonders, because if you look back even as recently as last year at the Jubilee, she looked a lot more youthful and fresh and just beautiful and radiant because she had more weight on her. And she carries weight really well in her face. She looks a lot better when she's got a little bit more meat on her bones. But bottom line, she is most definitely 42 years old. I know you don't know me and I'm a stranger to you, so you have no reason to trust me, but my source is absolutely trustworthy when it comes to this because they literally have no reason to lie. And they would know, of all people. So, yeah. That's it for this video. I guess I'll just go back to the 1940s because they called and said they have to teach me how to actually do my hair and stop embarrassing their era. And I'm just gonna go and do just that. All right, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.